As Gautam Mukunda writes, innovation doesn't only need the technology, but also the physical infrastructure to support the product. Gautam is a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion and a lecturer at the Yale School of Management. He joins us now on set here in New York. Wonderful to see you. Let's talk about this, the effervescence, the enthusiasm surrounding AI, meeting the reality of having to pay for it. And there are extreme things that I think of, the amount of money, for instance, that Meta has poured into this. And it's begun to retrench some of that here. How widely spread is that? Are a lot of companies kind of reckoning with what is this going to be, and is it worth the investment at this point in time?
So, great to be here. Yes, but there's a nuance here, right? So, there's a company I was talking to the CEO yesterday. He said, if Claude charged us 10 times what it does right now, he said, I would pay it, and I wouldn't hesitate. He's like, I wouldn't even think twice.
But what kind of company is that, and what is the application?
Right, it's a small healthcare company. So, so there's a big difference when you have 10,000 engineers who are running $2,000 per head. If you go 10x, right, things change when you're at that scale. But I think what's driving this is it's really interesting that the debate on AI is kind of missing something pretty big, right? I mean, that I think is what this cost thing is starting to drive us towards. Because you see, there are the boosters, and I used to code. The ability to talk to my computer and have it do something without is genuinely, it feels miraculous.
Fantastic.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
And then there are people, some of them people with enormous scientific and technical credibility who say, this is not going to come together the way you think. Like, this technology doesn't have the potential you think. There's hype. Those are also serious people. You shouldn't dismiss them.
Not doomers per se, but skeptics of this, yeah.
There's a third scenario, which it just strikes me no one talks about, which is you can have a revolutionary, world-changing, astonishing technology that doesn't end up making anyone any money. And this is the thing that I don't see people talking about. And I'll give you two examples. The airline, no one would deny that the airline industry, right, just changed the world, right? You can go anywhere, perfect safety, and eat peanuts on the way. Just remarkable.
More of a pretzels gal myself, but I'm going with you. Continue.
But Warren Buffett famously said that the airlines were such a machine for incinerating capital that if an enterprising capitalist had been at Kitty Hawk when Orville took his flight, he should have shot the thing down, right? No, you can change the world and not make money. In biotech, you saw sort of, the biotech revolution starting in 1975. So from 1975 to 2004, Gary Pisano at Harvard Business School showed that the biotech industry might maybe have made money in 1 year, right? And for that entire time, it was essentially just a furnace for money. You poured money in and, drugs came out, lives came saved, but people didn't make money, right? And you've got huge capital investments, lots of uncertainty, long delays before payoff, enormous costs. Oh, and the problem that, that AI is dealing with that biotech didn't is the open weights labs out of China in the last benchmarks are 4 to 8 months behind.
Wow.
That's not much of a moat.
That's right.
Yeah.
I also want to ask you talk a lot about the physical end of this and the scarcity of compute and these data centers that have to go in. And you make a comparison to Edison when they were starting. Please explain that.
Right. So when Edison built the light bulb, this is so iconic that when we have a bright idea, a cartoonist sketches a light bulb over our head.
David gets more of those than I do, but it's fine.
So fantastic. My wife says that mine are very dim, but that's fine.
You know what? It's there, and that's what matters.
That's the key. But he did, when the first Edison generator plant rolled out in New York City, and they were serving something like 400 light bulbs. Wow. Right? So you can have an astonishing technology, but you need a network, an ecosystem of other enabling technologies that have to build up to do that. In his case, it was generators and wiring and everything involved in a power transmission system. For AI, so we are used to, and I think a lot of the especially the VCs who went into AI is so heavy, they're kind of used to investing in SaaS companies, right? Where scaling costs zero and the marginal cost of production is zero. But AI is profoundly quite different, right? Because you don't see, as users go up, the marginal cost going down that much.
It stays the same.
I don't want to say it stays the same, but it doesn't drop.
It's pretty flat.
It doesn't drop to zero, right?
Yeah.
Just these things are really expensive to run. And so the scaling of this involves capital expenditures and physical construction and, simple stuff. Pouring concrete, wiring buildings. Those things are hard, right? They're not like dumping code onto the internet.
Yeah.
And you need plumbers and electricians. And, my joke about it was it's the return of the jocks, right? It's the guys who actually, and the women, of course, who do physical labor are becoming a constraint here that is unlike most things that the software, that this world has seen before.
And a lot of those trades are understaffed as well at the moment. Yeah.
Let me look at the other side of that coin, though, and I think you're talking about how this might not make money, might not lead to the kind of changes a lot of proponents are talking about here. It does strike me, the fact that this does have this whole complementary infrastructure component to it may make us less willing to see the fact that it might not make money, that this is seen as not just something that's going to improve the economy of information technology, financial services, but could have this wider spread effect on the U.S. economy. Do you think that's true? Is it clouding our sense? Are we willing to pony up and pay for all of this fiscal construction because it seems like it's providing these wider benefits to the country?
So I think that cuts both ways. Right, so it is, if you are an electrician right now, this is awesome. Like this is fantastic. This is the best thing that's happened to you in a long time. And since the United States has sort of apparently decided as a matter of national policy, we're not going to build housing, and at least we're building.
But we'll build data centers.
At least we'll build something. That's great. But of course, the flip side of that is data centers are incredibly unpopular. They cause political pushback everywhere they go. Large portions of Silicon Valley appear to have adopted the PR strategy of James Bond villains. And there is this kind of, I think, in some cases, I'm not sure this is about the data centers as much as just an inchoate rage of pushback. And this is a thing we can go after, right? And so when you're building this kind of infrastructure, you need the people there to say yes. And right now, America, despite all these benefits, and I mean, Loudoun County, Virginia,
oh my gosh,
just said that they're
can't throw a stone without hitting a data center.
I grew up in Rockville, Maryland, so this is like home for me, right? 60% of their tax revenues are going to be coming from data centers. Wow. So you would think this would be great, and yet instead you're seeing this huge pushback. I think this is another case where the industry's norms that have evolved over the last generation kind of need to yield to the fact that having a public relations campaign where we're going to take away your job and possibly end humanity.
Not a great pitch, Adam. Yeah.
But there's another PR element that you highlight in your latest column, and I wasn't even that aware of this, and that's you talk about where they're choosing to put some of this infrastructure, and it's in places that feels a bit exploitive. Like especially there's this Colossus 1 is going in largely without air permits in a largely black neighborhood of Memphis. You talk us through why those places and what that's doing.
I mean, those places have less political power to push back when the pollution gets so bad, right? And so if you are under enormous pressure to scale up your compute and you decide that the way to do that is to cut corners, and given all the obstacles that we've just talked about, you can see why the way you might decide to do that is to cut corners. It's easiest to do it in places where people have the least power to complain. If you do that in, Malibu, it's not going to go down.
A vociferous NIMBY crew in Malibu.
We've all spent a lot of time in D.C. Even in Loudoun County, if Loudoun County didn't want those data centers, you can bet they wouldn't be going in there.
That's right.
I want to ask how you're thinking about the effect this is having on the labor market. So you mentioned that pitch, this is going to take away all the jobs. Opened up my computer on Friday, Torsten Slok of Apollo had this note. There is no negative effect on the labor market because of AI. We're not seeing jobs lost as a result of it yet. How are you thinking about that? Putting aside, again, all of the kind of ideological perspectives on where this might lead to eventually. Do you think it is having an effect? Is it changing how companies, the CEOs of whom you talk regularly, the way that they hire, the way that they fire, the way that they staff their companies yet?
Yeah, but what I'd say is what it's showing up in is it's two ways, right? It's less firing, although we're seeing some of that, and a lot of the firing that is happening is less, I think, about AI enabling productivity and more people kind of scrambling for cash to sort of try and chip away at these gigantic capital expenditures. Yeah. But it's making it less, I think people are becoming more reluctant to hire just because of the uncertainty. But I think the deeper and more profound effect is about fear, right? You saw, especially during COVID, you saw the balance of power between companies and developers and people who had these skill sets swung really hard in favor of labor. What this does is it creates fear. Even if I'm not being replaced, I might be replaced, which makes me a lot more reluctant to ask for a raise or say I should have a say in the way the companies are governed. And I think a lot of CEOs, especially founder CEOs, for whom their company is their identity, are like, I'm not sure I want to give these people a say in how this.
We've only got about a minute left, and I'm going to ask the question that I always ask. I'm a bit of a skeptic about all this. One of the reasons is you talk about all this building, all this infrastructure, and a lot of that is being funded by credit, and a lot of credit, and a lot of circular credit. And for millennials who've lived through multiple crashes, I just feel like this is deja vu all over again. What is your take? Is this a bubble? Is this sustainable? Is it durable? Is it rippling, if not popping? Where are we?
You can have a bubble and still have a real technology. And that, I think, that's sort of to go back to where we were. That's the point that people are missing, right? You can say these valuations are insane. You can look at, SpaceX, which is apparently now an AI company, and say, you're $1.75 trillion for these financials, and say, if that's not a bubble, I don't know what is. I don't know what the GDP of Mars is going to be.
Well, no, we've been talking about there's a meme going around that NVIDIA is worth more than all the arable land in Australia. Right. At some point that just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and so, but at the same time, you can say that 20, 30 years from now, this was a bubble, but something came out of it that was really powerful. That won't be a lot of consolation if you lose your shirt in the meantime.